Alright, welcome to another episode of Seeds of Music, the web's #1 resource for independent artists. I'm your host, Kyle Williams, and this is our weekly web show where I bring on independent artists and full-time do-it-yourself musicians to talk about the ways in which they build bigger, stronger fan bases and sell more music online and at their shows. If you prefer to listen to this show just audio in your car or on your iPhone, whatever, we have actually an iTunes podcast version of the show. Just head over to iTunes and punch in Seeds of Music, Rise Above the Noise, and hit subscribe. And also, please, if you want to help out with the show, just leave a rating and a review within iTunes. That will help improve our ranking within iTunes, which will give the show more exposure, help us help more artists, and will help me to get bigger and better interviews on the show. In today's episode, we have Marcus, who is a blues infusionist. He's found his unique voice and is currently working towards full-time income using direct marketing tactics, aka direct-to-fan marketing. And I'm going to talk with him about how he shifted his mentality from not learning marketing at all to actually wanting to learn marketing. And also he has a particular tactic that he's been using that's been working really well for him, and that's busking. And busking has allowed him to have more freedom, more interaction with potential fans, and he's also used it to build his email list and produce more income. Also, we're going to talk about how he's learned that people in general respond more to mistakes than perfection, so he integrates that into his music. Stay tuned to learn more. All right, welcome to another episode of Seeds of Music. We have Marcus on the show today. Marcus, thank you for joining us from sunny Spain, and I'm noticing we're not having any Skype lag, so I'm really thankful for that.
Yes, great. Thanks very much for inviting me, and it's great to do this actually. I'm all psyched up.
Yeah. The first thing that I think about when I listen to your music is this idea of a blues infusion.
Yes.
You consider yourself a blues infusionist, and when I first watched the single that you're putting out, that you just created the video for, it's Cold World.
In this cold
world.
Yeah.
I was just really I was like, I like it when artists mix different styles, and it was awesome to see this kind of this dark and brooding loop with percussion. But guys, go watch the video. We'll have it linked up below. You'll see what I'm talking about. But how did you come into that kind of style?
Well, I realized at some point that essentially I'm a blues guitarist, but just between you and me and everybody else who's watching this, I get bored with blues quite quickly.
Yeah.
And there are some absolutely amazing original artists, and then, to my opinion, there are too many people who keep dragging on the same theme and the same format without creating exciting
12-bar blues in A. Let's
exactly. And then we'll go in G, and then we'll go in D, and see how long we can, and that bores me. And my band Giles, I put together specially with musicians who never played the blues. So we had my son on bass, who's very much into all sorts of, the grunge stuff.
Okay.
And then the drummer is very much into funk. And so they never played the 12-bar with and they actually can't play it that well. So
yeah,
we improvised around essentially blues melodies,
mm-hmm.
and then came up with different things, with a different style, if you like. But it's the mix that excites me.
You have the Van Halen thing going on with your son on bass,
Yes.
Wolfgang. Eddie Van Halen's son, Wolfgang, plays bass.
It's great to play with family. Whenever I can. I've got lots of creative sons and daughters, and they all sing, and so I'm going back to the UK in May, and then we'll be doing three concerts with them getting on stage, and people will be playing bass, and then Seb and will join in on the vocals, and my ex-wife will probably join in as well, actually. So it'll be a great get-together.
Oh, nice. And you're originally from the UK?
No, I'm from Holland.
From Holland?
I spent 28 years in the UK, so you probably hear some kind of strange accent.
Well, so I just took a wild guess because you said I'm going back to the UK. I was like, I didn't want to come off as sounding ignorant, but I guess I just did. But how'd you end up in Spain?
Via Colombia. My partner is from Colombia, and we
Okay.
spent 2 years up in the mountains in Colombia. Absolutely beautiful place
Oh,
called Villa de
nice.
Leyva, where it's spring all year round.
Hmm.
But it was not practical that I wasn't seeing my kids in the UK enough. So Spain was the obvious choice. Where with EasyJet, it's 2 hours from the UK. You can cross up and down, with like $100. You can go up and down to the UK from Spain, cheaper than a train ticket. So, and obviously they speak Spanish, and my partner doesn't speak much English, so that was
Can you
the
speak
thing.
other languages?
I speak Spanish. I'm fairly, I've perfected my pidgin Spanish, so to the point where the Spanish can actually understand me. And I speak German and Dutch, funnily enough, since I was born there. So,
That's
and
incredible
a
being able to speak
little bit
several
of French.
languages. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, what is it like being a musician in Spain? Because I've interviewed so many people from the United States,
Yes.
fairly familiar with it here. Is it different there?
I would think every country is very different, actually. And I read a blog about that just today, where a young guitarist who used to be in Spain has now gone back to England. He's talked about the difference. And he seems to feel that Spanish are more hospitable. So when you go to a gig, they won't pay you anymore,
Mm-hmm.
but because they still have this idea that music should be for free.
Mm-hmm.
But they will invite you into their home, they will give you a good meal, and they will do whatever they can to make you feel comfortable.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas in the UK, that's not always the case, to be completely honest. You quite often walk into a place and if you're lucky, they'll point you to the corner where you're supposed to set up and make sure you don't go over the limits, and that's as far as it goes. And I'm generalizing, and it's not always the case. There are some very good venues, obviously,
Mm-hmm.
but in general, I think there's something to it. That the Spanish are more passionate um, at people in general. They treat you like people more than a nuisance.
Oh gosh. So when so when did you start down this do-it-yourself musician path that you've been going on?
I was actually, because my time in Colombia, I kind of lost track a little bit, and I did come over when possible to do gigs. We used to play in Norway a lot with my trio, and that kind of dried up a bit. For some reason, people thought because of in Colombia, I wouldn't be able to gig regularly, and
Yeah.
it's not that, but that's the thing that people have in their heads. So, and then we had a tour in Norway because a venue wanted us back in Norway last June, and I thought, are we going to do this? And I asked the drummer and my son, and they said, yeah, let's do it. And I thought, oh dear, well, I better get my chops sorted. So I spent 2 months practicing. I thought, if I'm going to do this, I want to be better than I used to be. So I wanted to really take up go up a step.
Mm-hmm.
And then I enjoyed it so much to get back to music, and I thought, why am I not doing this all the time?
Yeah.
And I realized that if there are no gigs, I don't give myself the the luxury of spending every day. I don't do it because I have a family to provide for, etc. So then I realized the start of this year, I want to keep playing. I want to play full time because you're better when you play full time.
Yeah.
So let's make this year the year that I crack the code. And by the end of this year, I want to be able to say, okay, well, I don't need to do translation work. I can just spend full time on creating music and the marketing that goes with it.
So yeah, so you're very, very open to marketing. Have you ever
Yes.
were you ever like resistant to marketing and
Yes.
promoting yourself?
Oh yeah, I think most musicians start off with the idea that hey, I'm brilliant. One day the world will realize, and someone with a big checkbook will come. In fact, we did have someone with a big checkbook making us promises,
Oh
and
yeah.
and that's happened to so many musicians. In fact, it happened various times to us.
Yeah.
And as you're familiar with John
Yeah.
Ozakos. Even when you get signed up by a major,
Yeah.
well, it's only still a very small percentage that makes the big break. So that can be very depressing when you realize that actually it's not just about quality. You can have a really, I was talking to Grace about this today, you can have a really poor musician find a way to get on television, and the next venue they approach for a gig, the venue owner will know that they can fill the venue, and therefore they can set their price.
Yeah.
If you can't fill venues, or if you can't promise, to sell your CDs or something, you've got nothing apart
Yeah.
from the respect of some people who understand that you do something worthwhile. But that's as far as it goes.
Yeah. So what caused the shift in your mentality to where you're like, I'm going to learn marketing?
Well, it kind of all came at the same time. I realized that I need to set up a new website because my previous website with the band was taken over by the Chinese.
Oh
I have
no.
no idea what they want with my website, but it's some kind of sex website. If you're interested, go and have a
Oh
look.
geez.
You
What, the
won't be able
government confiscated your web property?
No, no, it's just that I let it lapse, and they bought my name, the
Oh.
website, the domain name. So I've
Oh.
lost that.
What was
So
the domain name?
gilesmusic.com. No idea what they want with that in China. Gilesmusic.com. But
Wow.
then if you check it, if you click on it, you get some kind of Chinese adults
What?
thing.
Wow,
So
that's weird. That's weird.
it is weird. So I realized I need to set up a new website to, a focus point. And then I bought the course of John Ojaka,
Okay.
which I can recommend actually. If you feel like, okay, you've come to the point where you realize that marketing is an essential part, and
Mm-hmm.
even when you have a good manager, it might still be a good idea to be involved because
Yeah.
you can never be sure.
Yeah.
Um, so instead of just, I got it mainly because he had a website template set up for WordPress,
Mm-hmm.
and I thought, well, that was tailored for the music business.
Mm-hmm.
So that was like my initial interest, and then I thought, well, anything else I'm going to learn from him is going to be good.
Yeah.
It's a very detailed course.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, if you want the complete picture in a nutshell, I think it would have taken me 3 to 4 years to figure it all out myself.
Yeah.
So I would definitely recommend that.
Okay. So so that's pretty much like you made the decision
Yes.
um, to make marketing a part of what you're doing because you knew that you needed to update your website, and then landing on Jean Jacques' site basically spelled it out for you and helped you to understand that.
Yes, that's like the last step in that. I'd already realized this more than 10 years ago with my band when
Mm-hmm.
we did a wedding gig, and
Yeah.
we got paid after our first set and asked not to play the second set because our music was not suitable for the place.
Oh yeah.
And I realized, okay, I never want to be, I never want to have to do one of those again, go for festivals,
Mm-hmm.
because I realized that if you just want to play and you take any gig you want, you're not going to enjoy to play those kind of gigs as much as the gigs where people have respect for you.
Yeah.
So you have to gain that respect somehow. And my first approach was to play festivals, and that was very successful. Now my approach is I don't even want to beg festivals for appearances. I want people to come to me because they've seen my presence on the internet,
Okay.
and they've realized that actually if we get this guy, not only does he make interesting music, but we're going to get extra people to our festival because of it. That's now my approach.
Okay. And you also have a busking strategy that you're currently
Yes.
implementing to bring in income. Like, how does that exactly work, and how well is it working for you?
It's from a marketing point of view, I feel like I've hit a shortcut. The response has been great, really, really excellent,
Mm-hmm.
because I've been publishing videos before and I've done gigs before, etc. Suddenly, with the first couple of videos of me playing on the street, good quality people, and I mean intelligent people who are are proactive, who might be able to do something for you, are responding and want to join in. So it's kind of seems to, for me, it seems like it's hitting all it's the stone that kills all the birds.
Mm-hmm.
Um, it gets me playing more. It gets me in direct connection with people to try
Yeah.
things out. Complete freedom. Whereas in a venue, you might be told like, oh well, can you do this or can you do that? Can you keep it short? Can you not too loud, not too, this and that.
Yeah.
On the street, I can stop whenever I like to talk to people. I can start whenever I like. I can improvise as much as I want.
Yeah.
Try things out. Uh, you know, creatively, it's the most liberating experience I've had, to be honest.
Oh,
So
nice.
that's been really good. But from a marketing point of view, so it's like the two extremes. Musically, it's the extreme thing for me so far, and marketing has been the extreme thing for me because people really seem to respond to that angle of me playing on the street, going direct to the people, not complicating things.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm really chuffed with that actually. So I'm just going with it and see how far it takes me.
And you're using that opportunity to build an email list as well.
Yes. Yeah, yeah. That's since the course that I did with Yamajaka. I think most people see that as the center. You need a website to get your people to, and you need to build an email list,
Yeah.
and that needs to be like the center point
Yeah.
for that's where you put your creative output, and that's where you direct people to if they're interested.
Yeah. It's most likely that your true fans will be on your email list as opposed to anything else because when a fan gives over their email, that's an indication that they really want to connect with you and they really want to stay updated.
Yes.
Because it's more, I mean, there's varying opinions on it, but the email list, I think, still, even with social media, still has a lot of value, and it's more personal
Exactly.
than any other kind of online communication. Because it's like,
Yeah.
it's supposed to be like getting a letter. That's why people, when you compose a correct email, you have, Marcus, comma, body, and then at the bottom, sincerely, or regards.
And they respond directly to those emails, I find, and that's been really valuable. And people come with great ideas and other suggestions. And I always make sure that when I put a new blog out, that I send out the notice to my email list first, and then it goes on to Facebook, so that they're in the loop first.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So, what is can you break me down step by step? Because I'm wondering about your strategy for achieving full-time musicianship for the year. Can you break it down step by step what your process is going to be?
I can't tell you what the process is going to be because that's developing all the time.
Okay.
There are some key things on the way that I can tell you about that will kind of materialize, like for instance setting up a website,
Mm-hmm.
getting the complete picture about the marketing, and then you've got to find your angle to make it personal so that you make it your own. And one key thing I've come to realize, somebody said something and I've rephrased it for myself: make your every activity count.
Yeah.
And that's been my motto. So obviously when you're writing and you put things out, that's one thing, but even going to see your daughter at a school thing, take some pictures and put it on social media.
Mm-hmm.
And then the next thing they'll see would be something music related. And it's the combination that's successful. So whatever I spend time on, even when I'm just browsing the internet and I find a website that's interesting, I put it on Facebook.
Yeah.
I might even write a blog article on it if it's something that's important enough for me. So whatever gets my attention for any amount of time, I will try and put that into some kind of publication,
Mm-hmm.
whether it's directly through social media or a blog post. And I find that you create your identity like that, and the people who respond to that identity are your loyal fans in the long run. They get to know you via other things you post, like
Yeah.
funny things you find, things that touch you. They will respond to that, and they're also most likely to respond to your music, I think.
Yeah. And mostly what I encourage every musician to do with social media is to, tell the story of yourself and your music, to write a mini novel.
Yeah.
And that involves giving people a look into your daily life, and from the
Yes.
exciting to the mundane. Because believe it or not, you could take, especially if you take something like Instagram and you see all the photos that people post of the things that they're doing. I've even noticed for myself when I see the pictures that they're posting, I'm like, oh, they lead such interesting lives. Because
Yeah.
usually when I'm looking at the picture, I'm not doing something as interesting, and they're out like in the park and they have some cool
Yeah.
picture of them hanging out with their dog, and it gives you the sense of just like, oh wow, I wish I was doing that. And I think that's a powerful emotional connection to make there. So I love the fact that you're always thinking about the the marketing hustle or the social media hustle or whatever it is, that no matter where you are, you're always trying to think about how this can strengthen what you were doing with your music. And it's not that it doesn't have to detract from the experience because you're thinking of that, because really you're doing this all for your family as well.
Yes, and it's something that I had to force a little bit at first because you need to make that into a habit, I think.
Hmm.
Because you forget sometimes, and afterwards I think, oh, why didn't I take a picture? Because on Facebook I would have had reactions to that.
Yeah.
And it includes the things that go wrong, possibly more than anything.
Hmm.
And an example just happened 2 days ago when somebody hacked into my friends list and sent all my friends an inappropriate email
Oh.
message on Facebook.
Yeah.
And I found out somebody explained to me, and so I thought, oh God, this is embarrassing. And
Yeah. Get
the
change the
first,
password.
yeah, and the first thing is, oh well, hopefully nobody noticed it. And then I realized, no, I need to put this on my wall.
Yeah.
And so I explained what happened, put it on the wall,
Yeah.
and I've never had so many comments.
Yeah.
All the people like, oh well, I haven't had it yet. Why haven't I had it yet? And others going like, yeah, I had it. And so it was like, I think I had like nearly 100 comments on this thing that went wrong.
Hmm.
That lets people go like, oh, this is embarrassing. I'll skip past it. And while that's happening, you're strengthening the bond
Yeah.
with your contacts.
Yeah.
So next time they see one of your videos, they'll go like, oh, I wonder what he's up to.
Yeah.
They're more likely to click it.
Yeah. What's incredible is like, because as you know, I'm a musician and I'm a marketer, and sometimes I find similarities, despite, I mean, they may seem far stretched to some people, but sometimes I find similarities between music and marketing, like in the sense that what you were doing there is just communication.
Yes.
You're communicating with people and establishing a social or emotional connection, or eliciting an emotional reaction. And really, isn't music the same thing? It's
exactly
another
the same.
language that you communicate primal things that you can't put into words, and you get an emotional reaction from it.
Yeah.
And I think it takes a creative person to actively do something like you just did, to make that creative. Creativity is like making connections between like different ideas, and just the fact that you're able to think about that creatively, how I can turn this into a positive thing. That's like very, very powerful. So, yeah.
It's a thing which becomes a habit, and I think if you
Yeah.
look at the biggest stars, like not many people would argue that Bob Dylan is one of the biggest stars.
Mm-hmm.
In my opinion, he's also one of the best marketers.
Mm-hmm.
He used controversy, he used everything he could to make an impact, to get a reaction,
Yeah.
whether it was good or bad.
Yeah.
And that's why he is as big as he is. I think you look at all the big stars.
Yeah.
I think there's that aspect to it.
Yeah. There's absolutely either. I mean, and the thing is in that era, the 60s and 70s, the music industry was conducive to really having a huge team around the artists, you know, of people who their specific job was to do a band's marketing, and those were creative individuals too. I think a lot of musicians don't understand that. That some of the people on the marketing team, I mean, they love music too, but they chose to specifically focus on how to spread that message of the music. For instance, like, you know, Led Zeppelin 4 not having an actual title on the album. That's a smart marketing move, you know.
Yeah, at the right time. If I would do that, it wouldn't do anything.
Yeah.
But, you know, Led Zeppelin, it was like, oh.
Yeah. I was like, oh, it's so mysterious.
The White Double album, you know,
Yeah.
the White Album of the Beatles. It's
Yeah.
actually the same idea, really.
Exactly. And when, it's it just, that when I think about that, I'm like, yes, that takes creative thinking on how to communicate. So it's just like music and marketing are both extensions of communication between humans. But the last thing I wanted to hit up before we close here, before we started this interview, we were talking about you said something really awesome about perfectionism, and I just wanted to go back over that with you, because I know a lot of aspiring independent artists and do-it-yourself musicians, they're going to get caught up in this idea of perfectionism, whether it's with their music or the ones who are really enthusiastic about marketing. You know, they'll get caught up in perfectionism with marketing. So, in your experience, what's the best way to deal with perfectionism?
I suddenly realized that perfection is boring and people don't respond to it. You know, someone like Beyonce might have another perfect concert where everything is right, and her fans will enjoy it, but nobody else will notice it. As soon as she breaks a heel and falls over, everybody wants to know about it.
Yeah.
You know, so that thought came after this idea of make your every activity count, because you immediately think like, well, yes, but I can't be embarrassing. I have to still make sure that it's right. You know.
Yeah.
And then as soon as I realized that it's the mistakes that people respond to more than the perfection, I thought, okay, well, what's the worst that can happen? I put something embarrassing on YouTube or whatever, and I get people respond to it. Great, because it gives you the opportunity to talk to them.
Yeah.
There was a guy just recently who responded to one of my videos, and he said, yeah, I've seen it all before, now what? You know. Mm-hmm. And I thought, oh, well, that's a bit shocking, because I've always, you know, I responded directly to him. Mm-hmm. I've always heard that I was too unusual. So I'm a bit worried about that, because that's the kind of the last response I want.
Yeah.
And he was kind of being negative for a while, and then suddenly he decided to check out some of my other videos, and he's now driving 2.5 hours on Sunday morning to come and see me play in the street here in Petroguer.
Wow.
Because, you know, so just the fact that I didn't kind of push it to one side and thought, oops, now there's somebody who doesn't like me. Yeah. I responded to him in an honest way, because I wanted to know what made him have this reaction. Mm-hmm. And while I was communicating to him, it turned him round, and he's, you know, obviously, you know, somebody who will go that far to come and see me live. So he will most likely buy some CDs and, you know, all that kind of stuff that goes with it.
Wow, that's awesome. That's incredible. I mean, once again, like, you were able to take something seemingly negative and turn it around. So what's the core mentality that you think that do-it-yourself musicians should have in order to do what you just did? Give yourself the chance to make mistakes. I realize that what I'm doing now is going to be not as good as what I'm doing in the future. Yeah. And I want to make as many mistakes now, so that by the time people really start to notice,
I'll have something a bit more solid to give to them.
Yeah.
So playing on the street is part of that. On the street you can make as many mistakes as you like,
Yeah.
and you actually turn it to your advantage. By the
Yeah.
time I'm going to be asked to play certain festivals, etc.,
Yeah.
I want to be pretty awesome, because I know I can do it.
Yeah.
But it's a skill. You test things, you try things, you solidify things by doing it, not by thinking about it.
You're sounding
But
a
you
lot
have to.
like an entrepreneur right now, which is awesome because I mean a lot of the successful entrepreneurs that have studied, their mantra is fail fast and
Yeah.
fail hard and fail
Yeah.
often. You know,
Yeah.
it just that's how you grow. That's how you get better. And it seems like playing on the street and busking is like a low risk environment to fail in, which is perfect because I think musicians set themselves up for big failures, and when they hit a bigger failure at a venue, then they think, "Oh, I suck," and they get discouraged from
Yes.
that. But
Well, whatever opportunity you get, I think, I go with whatever it comes my way. I do gigs, I do, this interview, I was really pleased to do it. On the one hand, I'm hoping to get some people to go to my website because of it, obviously. But more than anything, it's an experience, and whatever you do, it solidifies your ideas, it solidifies who you are, it solidifies how you come across, and it all adds to the mix, I think.
yeah. All right, Marcus. Well, thanks again for joining us from Spain and throwing down the do-it-yourself musician, raining down the knowledge. I mean, that's a lot of great stuff in there that we just talked about. Just not just the busking, but just your overall mentality. You have like one of the best, most rock solid mentalities I've seen so far in a
Thank
lot
you
of
very much.
musicians I know. So you're
I
doing
think
good, man.
busking is just one idea. I mean, it doesn't suit everybody,
Mm-hmm.
but the idea is to find something where you find you can develop and you get the response,
Mm-hmm.
whatever it is, whether it's busking or it could be something completely different.
Okay, right on. Marcus, thanks again.
All the best with your website, and thank you very much for giving me this opportunity, and I will spread your word as well as mine.
Excellent, man. Thank you very much. Check you later. And that wraps up another week's episode of Seeds of Music. On the show, we had Marcus sharing with us his story and tactics for building a bigger fan base and making more money with music. Make sure to check out our links below. Check out the video to his latest single. And also, if you haven't yet, sign up for our email newsletter at Seeds of Music. Just go to seedsofmusic.net. They've got forms all over the site. You can just punch in your email address and you will get not only updates on new interviews and vlog episodes and articles, but also special newsletter content that will help you build a bigger fan base and sell more music online. Also, if you like to just listen to the interviews instead of watch, we have iTunes podcast. Just type in Seeds of Music Rise Above the Noise, search for that, and subscribe. Plus, leave a rating and a review that will help the podcast rate higher within iTunes database and will be good all around for the show's exposure, and I'll appreciate it very much. And if you like this interview and you feel like you really learned something of value from it, I encourage you to hit that like button, hit that share button, and share it far and wide with every person that you know. And lastly, comment on the video. I'd love to hear what your thoughts are. Have you used busking before to build your email list and make a little money from that? Have you had a different experience that you'd like to share? Just leave a comment below on the post page. Love to hear from you. And do you know someone who should be on this show? Is that person you or is it someone else? Just send me an email to kyle.seedsmusic@gmail.com. At the most, it'll take me maybe 2 days to get back to you, but rest assured that I will get to every single email that ever passes through my inbox. I respond to every single one. So remember, we are the future of music.